Well, I'm at 24 and counting, so I'm going to start this urban design panel today with the hopes that we leave plenty of time for discussion. So hello and welcome. My name is David McElnay, and I'm representing the executive committee of the urban design panel today in introducing our excellent panel presentation that I'm going to summarize as Future of Downtown Portland uh, hyphen the RUDAT. And I'll let our esteemed presenter, Patty Tillett, explain that here in a moment. But just before we get going, the Urban Design Panel is sponsored jointly by the American Institute of Architects, the American Planning Association, and the American Society of Landscape Architects, and is composed of professionals from those three organizations with a shared interest in urban design. We're joined today by Heather Wilson of AIA Oregon. The AIA has previously hosted this event at the Center for Architecture in Portland and now generously offers this monthly Zoom, which we've been going since the pandemic, and it's going strong. It's a great format until further notice. In addition to a monthly email announcement, our panel presentations can be found on the AIA Oregon event calendar on their website, as well as their weekly Thursdays at 3 newsletter. And we thank them for that exposure, and I invite everybody to take a peek. Participation in any event makes you a panel member. We encourage you to sign up for information about future presentations. When you register, as you have today for this UDP presentation, you'll be included in upcoming invitations. We also encourage you to send any interesting future panel presentation ideas to Kathy Wendland at AIA Oregon. And Kathy, if you could put your email in the chat for us, that would be fantastic. Our hope today, just really quickly, these presentations are recorded and are made available on the AIA Oregon's website as a Vimeo file. So there's an archive going back a couple of years now. We've been recording here in the last few years. And we're going to put a link in the chat box for you to find that. The Vimeo takes a little bit to get, this Vimeo takes a little time to get into the archives, but others are there. So this presentation is going to be rather short relative to other presentations, and will be followed by a Q&A session, but really an input session is what we're looking for today. So please pose questions in the chat box, but we're also going to have our esteemed executive committee member, Aaron Riom, manage a broader discussion today. So feel free to put your hand up digitally. And we're going to encourage a lot more discussion today and see how that goes. We're making more time for it, and we're inviting everyone to go ahead and feel free to throw in ideas as well as asking questions. We can certainly have follow-up discussions. We leave that up to the presenters. So today, Patty Tillett, if you want to put an email in the chat box, folks can follow up with you. Otherwise, they can certainly find the Vimeo and the archives and take a look at the presentation again. So with that, I'm going to turn the meeting over to Mr. Patty Tillett. And Patty, please take it away.
Okay, thank you very much, David. Well, the main purpose of this session really is to answer panel members' questions about the proposed design assistance team effort. By way of context, let me outline what it's really about. Many of you already know this, but some don't. So in The Art of War, which was written 2,500 years ago by Sun Tzu, he observed that tactics are important, but the war will be lost without a guiding strategy. Now, given the fundamental changes that have shaken our downtown over the past couple of years, we need a tactical approach to solving immediate problems.
Welcome to Zoom. Enter your meeting ID followed by.
And we need a big picture strategy of what the central business district could become over time. So 40 years ago, the AIA brought an interdisciplinary team of urban experts to town to examine a wasteland of industrial land and old rail yards west of Union Station. Bill Church, Bill Wilson, Max Bolte, and others marshaled local resources for a regional Urban Design Assistance Team, as it was then called. This was in 1983. The report, which was the last place in downtown, which you may or may not recognize, was the result of that. And what happened with that was the city took it, and it took the scenarios that were outlined in there and developed from it a plan which led us through urban renewals and other improvements over the following years. So part of the outcome of that, of course, is the Pearl District. So I think that the lessons from that is that it may start off with just ideas, but it can become really enormously important in shaping the future of our city. So the Design Assistance Team, as it's now known, which is proposed for this year, is focused on our most visible area, which is the commercial district, business district. And we've really limited it on purpose to the area between I-405 and the river, between Market Street and Burnside. It's about 3/4 of a square mile. And the idea is that all of the focus should be on the most visible part of our city, which really is the CBD. So there is a lot to be said about adjacent areas, but we really want to be sure that we fully understand all of the resources within that area, physical resources, human resources, economic resources, everything, so that what emerges. Now, what the Design Assistance Team is a cadre of urban experts, a multidisciplinary team drawn from all over the country. The AIA does this. They've done about 200 of these over the last 50 years, and with some signal successes along the way. And so what has happened so far is the application, which Heather is showing you on screen now, was made last year. And it covers things like the community issues analysis, barriers to success, which you need to understand, what budgets might be, what human resources there are, what contacts we have, all of those sorts of things. And you get a sense from what Heather's showing you now as to what was in that. So that's the sort of preliminary briefing for that multidisciplinary team. And the idea is that they will come to town for a week in the summer, for a really concentrated effort to look at stuff on the ground, to hear from experts in all the various relevant fields, to hear from representatives of every corner of the users and residents of downtown, so they really understand what that context is. The intention is to look beyond solutions of the existential problems, as I say, and really to focus on a future vision. And that vision will lead to a detailed strategy of how to achieve it. So the local planning team submitted this application. It was to the Architectural Foundation in DC. It was favorably received. Preliminary meeting was held last week with the national AIA representatives and the leader of the expert team. So from now on, there will be more background research and so forth, so that as the team is assembled, everyone can be briefed. When the week-long session happens, and it's not yet scheduled, but sometime in the summer, then it's going to demand a great effort from all of us in the design profession. Certainly last time it did. It'll be different this time. The outcome will be very different. But rather than elaborate further on what the process is, what I would like to do really is to open it up to questions. I'd also mention that other members of the planning team are here too. Nancy Merriman, Mike McCulloch, Tad Savinard, John Spencer, and so there may be questions for them as well as for me.
I'd like to jump in if I could. I'll also add that the team had a preliminary meeting with Joel and Aaron, who are from AIA National. Joel Mills is my main contact. So I'll also point out that this is a chapter event, right? This is been steered a great deal by the fellows who put together an application and took a lot of initiative to push it forward. But we did want some communication, obviously, with all of our committees, and this is the time to get volunteers involved with a nice, diverse planning team. A lot of folks have been involved in the planning team up until now, and I think it's also time to open it up just a bit. Per the Nationals discussion with me. This also isn't housed with AIA anymore, technically. The Communities by Design program was housed with AIA for a very long time and now exists inside the Architects Foundation, which is our 501c3 charitable giving arm, and just changes the outreach slightly in that, foundations have a mission and a purpose that are public facing. And so whatever we come out of here, this is the new page for Communities by Design as it resides inside the Architects Foundation now. We believe that at the AIA level, obviously the solutions to bigger climate and resilience problems are embedded in talking to our communities, getting better work going on inside of our communities. And these are also great opportunities to get new members involved. So possibilities for younger members, for our small firms, and for people to really showcase their expertise as we deal with the public in solving these really broad problems. So we're also hopefully going to do a little leadership development while we're in the middle of this process, and there'll be a lot of opportunities for people to speak up and make their voices known and be a part of really salient discussion for the city.
So I guess we're open for questions. If anyone has any, please put your hand up and Erin will cue people in. We thought that this time, rather than doing the usual thing of putting questions in the chat box, that, as David mentioned, we do it sort of live so that it's more of a conversation.
And I'm just going to leave the application up. You guys let me know if there's a place you'd like me to drive to, but I think Patty did a good job of summing up what the application process has been. I think, to be fair, there's probably a little, I don't want to say, I think there's some feedback that I've gotten already from AIA National about, how we couch the initial application about what it is and what it isn't. Hearing back from Joel and Aaron and the new position of Communities by Design within the Architects Foundation, we do see that there is obviously overlapping need to understand all of the social context and things of, mental health, social health, cultural resilience, climate change, houselessness, drug use, and race and equity. Like, all these things will still play very deeply into the conversations that we have about what the physical forms take moving forward. There is a proposed timetable in here, though, and this is where I thought the questions might start flowing. It's like, how long do we have to do this? And like, what do you expect will come out of it? And what the work product will be. I do have some examples of places where I have been where we have completed projects, and I could also share that. So the last place I was there in Utah, we created one for Helper City. We created with the, it just won an award, as a matter of fact, in the facilitation awards. But this produced a, don't say that, it's produced a document that was left behind with everybody in Helper that helps them get, implementation for these projects that could mobilize.
You've frozen, Heather.
I think Heather froze mid-comment. All right, so we do have a couple of hands raised while we wait for Heather to come back. Maybe Jeremy, you want to jump in first?
I'm here now. I don't know what just happened. That was very weird. Just quit on me.
You had a Zoom stroke.
It just quit on me. It said no.
Well, did you want to finish your thought, Heather, before?
I can't remember where I left off.
Okay.
I don't know what you heard last. What did you hear last?
Well, maybe we can chime in and we can get the dialogue going. Maybe we'll remind the team. But thanks for that intro, Patty. And many of us have been here for quite a while in Portland, and we're invested in the downtown and interested in, ready to not disinvest, but to be part of this. I guess I have a question. Not having been seen or been part of the earlier RUDAT that was done in the Pearl District, and maybe not having been involved or kind of keeping an eye on what's happened, what the process is, what can, from the design community here, I guess my question is, as someone who's interested, how can we, when are we able to participate? When are we able to lean in? What are the opportunities for those not listed in that great document and application you have in there? What are the opportunities for us from the design community as things evolve in the summer, or is it later, or how does that play out for everybody?
Well, thank you, Jeremy. There will be enormous opportunities for involvement. Absolutely. I was just going through the list of everyone who was involved in the 83 movement, and it was a huge list of people. I think part of it is ferreting out information, and there will be questions from the multidisciplinary team about various aspects of the CBD, which will require some fresh research, for example. And so there will certainly be a need for that. I think there's also will be a need for making sure that we really do include all of the people and the topics that need to be included. I mean, a criticism which is expected is that, oh, what about us? Nobody asked us, and it's very important that we cover all of those bases as we go through all of this work. The work that's been done so far has been one of rounding up maps, tables, studies of what's happened in the past. Obviously, the existing documents like Central City 2035, and some idea of the reality of what downtown is about. I mean, you're all aware of this, but certainly when I speak to people from elsewhere, they say, "Oh, are there still riots in Portland?" Because the only pictures they ever see are of graffiti on the federal courthouse and things of that sort. So I think part of it is going to be dispelling the myth and getting through to the truth. And I think the only way to do that is by broadly based participation.
I would like to posit too. I think this is super important. We've got our social justice action plan. We have some members that I certainly want to invite to the table and to the conversation, including the executive director of the Meyer Memorial Trust. I would love it if someone from Brick Architecture is also involved here, as they have done a lot of work with this clientele. And if there is anyone who specializes in trauma-informed design, I would like to have someone with that expertise on our team. I think these things will be really deeply important as we move forward to just understand that our solutions are timely, a good fit, not tone deaf, any of the things that could make a very good intention look like anything else. You know what I mean? Like we were uninformed in any way, or we did not include, or we were not open to hearing from other historical aspects. Because while all of the planning documents we have are very, very good, what we also need to understand is what our social context was at that time versus what it is now, and how we will adjust for the things that we expect to come in the future, because we anticipate whatever solutions we get out of here could be transferable to other cities in the state, or to other states. For example, California deals with a lot of problems in their cities like we do. So I know the U of O is involved here and has this as a studio. I think Nico might want to speak to that a little bit too. But I think this is an opportunity for us to mine new ideas around what our context is right now.
Heather, you posted to the chat that you are looking for names of folks wanting to get involved. Is there a particular way that you would like for them to get their contact info to you?
You can, I put my email in the chat. You can put in the subject line, design assistance team. That'll be a good enough sort for me. And that way I can speak to your specific interest level or what it is that we can find a place to plug in and what the timing will be for that. But I just want to get everybody's interest in and keep them all in a list of people I can reach back out to as needed, because it's going to be kind of an all hands on deck as needed, situation when this design team comes, as Patty said, there's this national group of kind of all heavy hitting, rock stars that are going to come into our backyard, and we will be kind of called to do activities with them and around their availability when they're around. So having good groups of people to call on would be great for me.
Great. Allison, thank you for your patience. You've been waiting a little while.
No problem. Hi, everyone. Thank you and for this great work. I realize that this is early yet, but what is the thinking around integrating city leadership into the effort so that the final product doesn't end up being another really great plan that sits on the shelves?
Well,
I'd like to take a shot at that if I could, Patty.
do.
The original intent of this DAT process was came up last January. And the intent from my part and my partners on the planning committee was that we would draft a report that would then go to city council as an example of what we've been doing, and ask that there be additional funds earmarked and delivered to the Planning Bureau to review the document and the initiatives and begin to see if there could be a tighter focus on some of those things and bring them into policy. That was the initial intent of the exercise. And in terms of reaching out to government officials and engaging them, the first step was to reach to the mayor's office. We felt that is the absolute first step in a project such as this. And we have a call with the mayor's staff tomorrow. We had not been able to get in front of the mayor for a number of reasons, but the intent was to inform him of the project. They have electronic copies of the application and narrative and such, so it's not an unknown quantity. But then the intent after the mayor, just out of courtesy, then obviously beginning to go down and speak to bureau heads and other people with other commissioners, now that the assignments have been made for the bureaus, and to slowly disseminate the information along with a full rollout to the media and in the announcement of the project, as well as directing individuals as to how they can sign up to be a part of this activity. And that was, we've got a lot of lists. We have lists of people we want to include, lists of places where public meetings could be, lists of people we want to approach for money. We've got some good potential there, speaking to some of the nonprofits and to the developers in the community. So there's been a lot of kind of strategic thinking about how this rolls out, but we're not at the rollout phase. And as Patty said, and Heather mentioned, that there have been some dates thrown around for this, but there's still so much infrastructure that has to occur in Portland among the community before we can do this. The last discussion that we had was looking at late June, early July, and I think that's still in the conversation mode. And we certainly understand that Heather and her staff are not, they have many activities that they're engaged in, and the intent initially in going forward with the project was not to bring any undue burden upon the AIA office. So we've been working outside of the office until now, and that's I think the time is appropriate for us to all gather together and see how we're going to be able to parse this out.
Great. Nico, you're up next.
Yeah, great. Thank you. So I'm not sure if any of you remember, we gave a presentation. We're doing a studio this coming spring on a very aligned topic. We've been in conversations with Ted and with Patty about this, and with Aaron and Joel from AI National. But we're working on a studio with Mark Raggett and Laura Lillard, and have also been having conversation with Troy Doss about this. The focus is going to be really a lot of the analysis that we're doing, we're hoping that can be used by the team that comes in. So if you all remember, we did the project last year on Lloyd District, so we're going to be doing a similar work, and so that hopefully that's going to help the group coming in. The focus is going to be more not on the entire city, because I think that's too much for students to handle, but we're going to be looking more at the waterfront kind of so more of a focus on waterfront, kind of the space between Pioneer Courthouse Square and the waterfront. But we would love to, we had originally tried to coordinate this with Tad and Patty to have the event happen while this term was still in session. Unfortunately, it didn't work, but we're still really excited to be coordinating with them. So I just wanted to put out for people who are interested in getting involved, we are going to have a couple different opportunities. We're having presentations from the community, and people are involved in being part of that. That's going to be the week of April 17th. Our midterm is on May 12th, and our final is going to be on June 7th. And I will put my email in the chat. So anyone who's interested in being part of those things, which is a good way, one, to help shape the conversation, help shape the analysis, we would love to have you be part of that.
You know, from past projects, sometimes students are much less constrained by the awful realities and can come up with some incredibly imaginative solutions for specific areas or features within the area. And our hope is that that's exactly what they'll do, and that the input they give to the design advice team will be very helpful indeed. So I'm glad that we're going to be able to incorporate that much. We really did try to make the week-long workshop coincide with the term, but for various reasons we just couldn't make that work. But it's going to be terrific to have this partnership with Nico's studio. So we're very, very pleased about that.
Great. It looks like we have a question from the Sarah office.
Yeah, this is Tim. We're a bunch of us sitting at a table here. Well, thank you, Tad and Patty, for not only an excellent presentation, but also for marshaling the forces and everyone else. So my question is, what type of outside experts are we likely to see? I am hopeful that it's not just architects, but it includes planners, economic development people, a few developers, maybe even a sociologist, or all kinds of, in other words, for such a complex set of issues that we're going to really have to grapple with here, we probably need a complex array of expertise, some of which we have here, but it would be nice to know that there are some outsiders coming who would cover those bases as well. What is your thought, even though you don't possibly know the names of people, the kind of areas of expertise that you've asked for?
Well, Tim, that in the past has been exactly the success of the teams, the multidisciplinary teams. There typically are urban experts, there are sociologists, there are a lot of people other than architects and urban designers and planners involved. So part of the purpose of the initial meeting, we had an initial meeting last week with Joel and Aaron, and with the leader of that team, who has already been selected. And it was precisely to look at what is the nature of the problems that need to be addressed, what kinds of expertise are going to be needed. So what's going on at the moment is figuring out what those are and who would be the best person, given their experience, given their past participation in design advice teams. How should that team be composed? So we will certainly expect that sort of multidisciplinary background, but we will also be drawing on the sorts of expertise you mentioned locally to complement, so that we can fill in what is already known, as it were. So we really need to draw from both sides. But the great advantage of having people who are disinterested, in the sense that they don't have any local involvement, is they can look at these things very objectively and very clear-headedly, and give us some very sound advice. And that, I think, has in the past been the strength of the whole DAT process.
I'd just like to add there that I think I'm a newcomer to this backyard, but I am not a newcomer to the design assistance team process. And I think that it is a very useful tool for what Patty just pointed out, but also it's a really important internal development tool around our own leaders and our own talent. I don't want to lose sight here that this is very Portland specific, but we have a new governance model for our chapter. So we are AIA Oregon doing this work, not just AIA Portland. And we will certainly invite members from our other sections, like Rex is on here out of Eugene. Thank you so much, Rex, for being here. To open up and, like I said, discuss how whatever it is we're developing here is transferable or applicable to problems that we know our other cities are experiencing. That's also part of the I think great part of the RUDAT SDAT process, is that we have this amazing library from AIA of answers, like what to do in a city of a certain size with a certain problem going on. And I think this is what we'll be adding to the library of, I'm very interested to see this is also a place where great new ideas come out, great new policy ideas and great new design theories. So I'm interested in seeing how we push the envelope here.
Let me also add something to Patty's description of the team is that it's probably useful, if you haven't had a chance to review it, that the main issues that are raised in the application that we are seeking attention on have to do with housing of all kinds in downtown Portland, pedestrian circulation from PSU to the core, to the retail core, as well as circulation to the river. There were many comments within the document and upfront about the fact that Portlanders seem to have lost the ability to communicate with each other in an effective and respectful manner, and that we really are pushing the AIA DC team, who will assemble our Portland team, to give us somebody who is adept at really being an excellent facilitator, so that responsibility doesn't fall to us. There were comments about potential new attractor to downtown, beyond the usual, what have we learned about bricks to clicks? What have we learned about 9 to 5 working? What have we learned about pandemics? What are we looking at in the future of how can Portland become a 21st urban center? In other words, this is not about today. This is looking forward 5 years. How will the city be able to evolve into something that will be begin to address the aspiration that downtown has always had of becoming a great American city?
Some of the things that we mentioned to Joel and Erin during their visit were the sorts of problems which are also opportunities. For example, we've got about 1,600 unreinforced masonry buildings downtown. That's a problem. One of the problems is that it costs so much to do a seismic refit that nobody really wants to do anything with those buildings. But if we look at what those are, a number of them, for example, are Class B and C offices, for which there is little or no demand now. They're also smaller footprint buildings to which you can get natural light right into the center. So here's an opportunity for conversion from office use to residential use. And a further opportunity is that because these tend to be smaller than the typical office development, they can be handled by smaller developers and by smaller contractors. So there's an equity aspect to this whole idea. So what we're trying to look at is how the various problems can, between them, become a super solution. Another example is the public realm. I mean, we've learned during COVID that automobiles are not the only users of the public realm, although they occupy about 90% of it at the moment. But looking beyond extensions of restaurants in parking spaces, what else can we do with the public realm? Can we use it more fully? Can we use it somehow to enrich life in the city for residents, for visitors, and for people who work there? What is the potential? And I think this is all about potential. Things which may seem like liabilities in many cases are assets. The question about the enormous expense of seismic refit of those Class B and C office buildings. What about a tax postponement for a period of years, 15 or 20 years, to offset that, which is something that can help with the financing of the redevelopment in the first place? I mean, all of those sorts of questions need to be considered concurrently. And this goes right back to Tim's original question about what disciplines are going to be there. We need all of the disciplines that enable us to look comprehensively at that sort of problem and come up with a practical and implementable solution. And the most important part of all of this, of course, is going to be implementation. And that will follow later. But typically, or expectedly, the city will indeed take whatever emerges from this and look at it in its own terms. And to some extent, I suspect it'll replace much of the strategic aspect of Central City 2035, because so much has changed in the meantime. So this really is the nub of what we're talking about. So I'm glad you raised the question about disciplines, Tim. Stunned silence from our
I was
question.
going to say there are a lot of people on this call and not a lot of questions. Patty, I guess you did an excellent job explaining it. And I think, like I said, I've got the link of the application there. I also just kind of want to make clear that all of the meetings that are going on, like I saw a note in there about city officials. As Tad pointed out, I think some of this preliminary footwork of setting up the meetings has been done outside of the AIA office. I think it's deeply important for our leadership to be involved. Kaylee and John, I don't know if John's on the call today, but Rex is on our board of directors as well. And Misty I saw on here. I thought, in any case, we will also be reporting out on this at all of our board meetings. We meet every other month as a board, and we meet every month as an XCOM. And this is certainly one of our agenda items to kind of keep moving along, because there is obvious like chapter investment. We've got volunteers, we've got alliances with other groups that we are fostering, and then we've got leadership development within our own group that we want to make sure that we foster and develop. So we are also keeping our eyes on these. I am tuned in to the meetings as well. Kaylee and John are invited to as much as they can make it to with their busy schedules as well. And I think between all of us, we'll just have lots of eyes and ears involved in the conversation and lots of points for feedback.
And certainly as more is known about the timeline, we will be looking to schedule another urban design panel session to discuss updates and progress and reconvene this group as well.
Thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions out there from the group? This is a remarkably large group of attendees.
I kind of want to say that I think this group is where ideas for other RUDAT, SDAT probably will come from, just so you guys know. Like, this bubbled up from the Fellows Committee. I think the main thing I want to leave behind is that this can come from any of our members, and it likely would be more super valuable for us over time as we get the actual requests from cities. So I think just to report out, David, I think is off the call now, but this panel we have drafted a letter to send out to municipalities to tell them, like, bring us your problems. Let us know what's happening. You'll get an hour at our urban design panel table to like hash it out, and we'll see what good next steps are. And sometimes that good next step will be a SDAT or a RUDAT process.
I didn't hear
right.
whether the documents, that the initial application documents that you showed are available online to read.
They are, and a link to them is posted in the chat window.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah. Jonah, you have your hand raised.
Thank you. My question relates to whether the meeting last few weeks, the preliminary meetings, dealt with surprises that might happen, during the actual gathering in the summer, and specifically surprises related to questions or challenges that might come up. For instance, the focus on downtown only, the core, versus the larger context of the city, as a criticism. And then obviously, I think that the elephant in the room is about equity, and how, even though I think the application makes it pretty clear that we're not trying to duplicate efforts that other people are doing, that there's, I think, a high likelihood that there's going to be interest in this from a lot of organizations that are interested in equity, and how that balance is going to happen in a constructive way versus chaos, which potentially will be there. So I'd like to hear you guys talk about that.
Well, let me first of all address the question about objections that will occur. We know immediately, you're absolutely right, that people say, oh, all the resources go on downtown. What about the east side? And that certainly is an equity question. Another criticism is going to be, why don't you get on with doing something about tents on sidewalks instead of talking about the future? And that's an inevitable one too. And I think we just have to be very diligent in explaining the Catholic nature of what we're doing. I mean, it really is very broadly based, and to the extent that one can cover all of the issues, that certainly is the intention. But I think that you're absolutely right. We have to be prepared for those questions, and I think we need to be prepared for them in a very material way. I think that the more inclusive we can be of, obviously, residents, wealthy residents and impoverished residents of downtown. And I think one of the difficulties is to get past a lack of understanding of how markets, for example, work. I mean, when there is expensive housing added, there's an outcry, what about affordable housing? The reality is that our entire housing stock is underinvested. And the more we can expand the housing stock at every price point, the more we improve things for those at the bottom of the barrel, as it were. So I think we have to be very clear. We have to listen carefully and make sure we're really answering the questions that are being asked. And that's sometimes very difficult. Something politicians are past masters at avoiding, but I think we need to be a little more precise than that.
I'd like to add that I think it's not baked yet. So we've gotten this process started, but those things are not baked out of the process by any means. I think we made application, and the application was accepted, but now that the team is engaged, a lot of the parts of the application will necessarily become, a little more enhanced, or we'll get more, meat put on the bones, so to speak. So I feel like we obviously need to engage, like I said, with people who have already been working with this clientele at this interface in the urban environment, and not just in Portland. We have some examples throughout the state that we need to call on. On top of that, like I said, I really do feel like this is shaping up to be a solution. Now that I hear from Joel and Aaron from National with the foundation, that will become a resource for other mid to large size cities like LA struggling with similar groups of issues. It's like a group of sticks, right? It's like a group of issues at once. So I don't think that we're going to walk away with all the answers, and I want everybody to kind of be prepped for that. I think that's kind of what Patty is trying to say. But also, I think if we make any strides toward understanding the problem better and offering real-time policy and physical environment inventory that lets them know a direction to move in, we have accomplished something. So I kind of want to prep everybody for it to be, I hate to use the term quick and dirty, but it is going to be a little fast. It's going, as it comes together, it's going to be like wet bread dough. Like it's not going to be well formed yet. And that's kind of the ball we're going to leave with a city, quite frankly. It's not going to be fully baked. It's not even going to be fully formed. It's going to have enough space left in it for them to personalize and make their own. And I think that's the best solution that we'll end up with, quite frankly.
Glenn, you have your hand up.
Yeah, thanks, Erin. Patty, you said something about, it has to be practical. And I think take that with a buffer. I think of the 70, I think that uniqueness and creativity that haven't thought about is probably what's needed, not just pivoting off what we already know how to do. I think about the 72 downtown plan as office parks were killing downtowns. Portland said, we're gonna do something different. And we did the kind of the retail spine, the office district, the housing district, and then the Fairless Square, all that came together to say, this is a different place. This is a civic investment going in that encourages private investment and all of that. Now, I think we're seeing the weakness of that Euclidean pattern back then, in that the most vulnerable part now is where it was only office, right? And so so we have to figure out how to fill that in. But anyway, just a thought there for, I think, doing something that's different, unique, and really signals to people all around the country, like, oh my gosh, that's what downtowns are becoming. That's what they should be.
Well, that's our aim. You encapsulate it very well, but that really is what we're after. I think there was there were several aha moments in the RUDAT back in 1983, and another RUDAT I was involved with in Boise, also aha moments, which really led to solutions that nobody had thought of before. And I think that's exactly what we're looking for. And I think that this is why injection of Nico's students' ideas is good, because that is going to stimulate our incoming panel as well as our local talent to think about new ways to do things. So you put it very well, Glenn. Absolutely. Thank you.
Great. Another question from the Sarah office.
You're muted, Sarah.
Yeah, right. Thank you. Well, building on Heather's comment about wet bread dough, which I really like, by the way. I mean, I don't like to eat it, but I enjoy the analogy. I guess my question is, what, a little bit closer to the ground, are these folks going to come in, and is this session, however long it is, going to be a presentations, and then they go away and produce something? Or will there be opportunities for everyone here and others to actually roll up their sleeves and draw things, or some kind of combination of both? In other words, I'm assuming it's a combination of both. I'm seeing both of you nod your heads, and that the group will then go away somewhere and put together a report and we'll get to take a look at it and
they actually
then have a discussion about whether we agree or disagree with it.
Actually put the draft of the report together during that week. And there's a huge effort on the part of the local support team to produce the graphics, to sort out the text and so forth. Really, it's taking the wisdom that we can glean from our visiting team, and with the help of all present, building a coherent story about what we can be and how to get there. So the report will later be refined, but the idea is that you actually have something at the end of that week. So much of the work is done before the week. in briefing the out of towners, in coordinating our own efforts and deciding who's going to do what, and making sure that everyone who needs to be consulted has been consulted. So we really build the report as we go. And it's usually, I mean, of those I've seen, they're usually fairly comprehensive. But the great thing is to somehow capture those aha moments and follow up as to what the consequence can be.
Part of the discussion that the planning committee has been having is we had a bit of an aha moment ourselves in stepping back and thinking that maybe rather than a completely comprehensive product, it's maybe more 10 dynamic projects that would change the face of downtown Portland. So that, because really when we start this, implementation is key. If we do not have the people involved in the beginning who will follow through the entire process and then be part of the implementation plan, then it is all for naught. And so I think there is a delicate balance of also trying to see what we're capable of doing and what we could actually encourage the city and or the private sector to partner on some things, so that what comes out of this is maybe a few things that are already rolling down the tracks that don't need an incredible amount of public input or zoning changes or anything like that, but actually to try and solve some of those challenges that folks are having in the beginning of the process, because we don't want this thing to sit on the shelf. There will be many other competing projects, whether it's OMSI or Conway or Albina project, or we've got a lot going on in the city. And so getting things implemented will be a strategy unto itself. And so in my hope, my personal hope, others may feel differently, I feel projects that can be implemented or have a clear path to implementation will end up being the most successful projects that come out of the study.
Something we haven't mentioned, which relates to timing, is the fact, of course, that city government is being reconstituted. Right. And one of the things we want to do is to make sure that what Tad just described is in place as the new city government is put together. So this is a given. It's not something that's going to get overlooked. So that's one of the reasons why we thought it's so important that it happened now.
I would like to I'll just put the link to it for you guys. There is a YouTube video that I want to share of the upshot of a DAT process in Ogden, Utah, where the product ended up being a video that was both encapsulating like the work that had been done and, like Patty is saying, encouraging the planning group and other volunteers to do more. So sometimes the work product is like he said, a report that gets left behind, and also things that we can invest in either as a chapter, or maybe in this case, the municipality actually paid for the video, of trying something that helps gain community support around an idea. That may also be a work product that comes out of this. So yeah, I'm not going to bore you with the video, and I'm not entirely sure my sound will work on Zoom, but I have provided the link there so you can see what another outcome from a RUDAT looks like.
Thank you.
Any final questions or comments for the group today? All right, well, I have one. Between now and our next urban design panel session featuring this particular topic, where should folks go to learn more information and get updates?
You can send that to, like I said, to me in the email. Oh, I guess I didn't share that with everybody. Let me share that with everybody. There's the link for everybody. for the YouTube video. I feel like you can email me or Patty or Tad at the moment, but the fastest way to make sure that you're going to be on a list is to contact one of the three of us in between, and then we'll make sure that we are in contact with any interested volunteers in between spaces.
There is also, the application tells you what, is a clear indication of what we were thinking over the last year of how we might format this request. I think some things have probably changed since then, but we'll get to those. The other thing is that the AIA National has a great single page description, very detailed, but it's only a single page of the DAT process and what comes out of it. I'd also like to mention that these processes that the DAT is involved in generally are able to leverage additional new federal dollars for projects identified within the DAT. So certainly it's our hope that we will be able to access some of those funds on the federal level for implementation.
Absolutely. Community development block grants come to mind immediately.
Great. Well, if there are no other questions or comments, I think we can probably wrap up for today. I want to extend a huge thank you to Patty and Tad and everyone who was involved in putting the application together. And thank you so much for taking the time to come and present to this group today. Really, really appreciate it. And we will definitely be in touch as things evolve, and look forward to another session coming up either later in the spring or early summer to get an update on where this process stands. In the meantime, we do have another urban design panel session coming up March 21st. Topic TBD, we're still trying to work out some of the details on that, but that should be posted on various websites, AIA, APA, ASLA, very shortly. So thank you all so much for attending, and hopefully we'll see you all here again next month.
Thank you, Erin. Thank you also to Heather.
Thanks, everybody.
Yes,
Have a good day.